And that's why I love the office, because I get to play the game every day. If I'm a work from home and I've got a generation who works from home, I don't know how to play the game. I'm not in it.
You know, they're a bit weak in some areas and we think that we're going to take that challenge on. It gives us a good indication of where we really need to hone in.
Your self-belief in yourself is too low and I need you to have a crack at this.
The leadership team, Tom and myself, and we said, okay, terrific, here are your values, that's great. Now don't tell anybody about it.
Starting point, I think as difficult as the conversation it is for you, just think about how it lands for them. Think about what they're, think about where they're at.
You know, one I say to people a lot is I say you can be on the right track. If you sit down, the train will run you over.
It comes back to the behaviours that you want, and the behaviours are influenced heavily by the values that you have.
You know, they're the master of their own domain. I'll just take what they say and try and form some good company decisions.
And it's a recipe for success. And some of the poorer decisions I've made around people have been not taking into account what do they actually need.
Welcome to Slicing Through the Noise, a leader's story. The podcast that uncovers real stories behind impactful leadership. Join us as we explore how leaders cut through the chaos, master powerful listening, and build cultures of accountability and vision. Whether you're a seasonal executive or an emerging leader, this is your space to learn, grow, and lead with integrity. Let's slice through the noise together. Welcome to Slicing Through the Noise. Our very special guest today is Richard McCarthy, one of my most favourite people in the world, and definitely at Integrity and Values, one of our most favourite clients. I know that when he said yes to doing a podcast, Terry, my EA, got all excited. She said, we're going to have Richard. So there's something very special about who Richard is as a leader and as a human being that has gone through the refiner's fire to become the leader that he is. And today we want him to tell us his story so that you as a leader can learn. So welcome, Richard.
Thank you, Jennifer. That's very humbling to hear that. So I appreciate that.
Oh, well, it's true. It's true. I still remember meeting you. And my heart always fills. So you're a good man who's learned to lead in the face of all kinds of nonsense.
And still learning to lead.
And still learning to lead.
Yep.
So I thought today I'm just going to prompt you and you're just going to tell us your story about how you ended up in the seat of a CEO, as a GM, as a part owner in a business, all those kind of things. Like, what did it take? What did you have to give up about yourself? What did you take on? What did you let go of? So let's just wend our way through your life. And, you know, what are the things that keep you stable in your world? And I know some of them, but I think our listeners are going to love your story, because I think it's a story of a man who took himself on and did the things and did the hard yards. So let's talk about family, footy, and foundational values. Yeah. So I know that for you, family first is your number one value. Can you talk about what was the foundation that you still use today as a leader in leading people around your family values?
It was really interesting. I remember going through this with you around what are my values? And I really hadn't done this until well into my leadership career.
Yeah.
So it was something that, it was a bit of hard work just to work it through. But family to me was around the where I can be who I am, and I'm valued for being who I am.
Yeah.
Which means what I bring adds value. It's also a recognition that I don't always bring the right thing. That's okay, but
don't
people
always
still
look pretty.
No, don't always look pretty. It doesn't always work, but it's still valued for bringing it and having it a go. And that for me was also then very much based on how I feel within my own family. My wife, my 3 now adult kids as well, and how we keep each other honest, how we keep each other real. And for me, we've certainly as a family, we've moved house 24 times, I think, over since my wife and I have been together. But for me, home is always where the 5 of us are.
Yes,
and that's that sense, and that's what what I've learnt to bring to my work is around the how do I get that same sense of just being valued for who I am and what I bring along the way, and how do I apply that to the people around me as well.
So, I mean, I think, that foundation, taking it into the workplace, how has it shaped how you lead?
It's made me think about the importance of connection. For the longest time, I learnt all the functional aspects of leading, the tools, the tasks, all that sort of stuff, and was quite good at it. But there was a seminal moment, and it was when you and I met. Yeah. And I remember it because it was 4 words of feedback that reshaped how I thought about leadership. And the 4 words were, smart guy, can't lead.
Did I say that?
Well, it was actually someone that had shared that with you, and you were one of the, it wasn't shared with me directly, but you had the courage to share that with me directly. And it really made me stop and think.
Wow.
Because for up until that point in my career, being the smart guy had actually got me through a hell of a lot. But this notion of can't lead, what does that mean? Does that mean I don't have the answers? Does that mean that? But back to your original question, what I've learnt is that it's actually all about connecting with the people that you work with. And from that connection comes trust and understanding of what you each bring. And then through that trust and what you each bring, you can go and create magic together.
Yes.
Far more than you can individually.
Yeah.
So that was the seminal moment for me.
So it's that old notion of, when you're leading, you give up the position of being the smartest guy in the room. Because if you are, you may be, and if you maintain that as your position and your defence mechanism, you actually can't grow the people around you.
You can't grow the people, and you can't grow yourself either. That was the other thing.
Yeah.
One of the things I was reflecting coming in for today around what are some of the mindset shifts that I've had along the way. One of them was around my notion of leadership as being about leading from the front, which is about often having the answer or setting the direction or something like that, to leadership being about enabling leadership wherever it's needed. And sometimes that means you need to be in front, and sometimes that means you need to follow really well. And sometimes that means you just need to get out of the way and let people do their thing and see what comes out. And have the courage to do that and the patience to do that.
Well, it's also in the moment. Tell us a little bit about the moment when you let go and trusted that they could just do it, and you had to hold your breath knowing that they didn't have all the answers, but they would work it out. Tell me something that's...
I was going to say, what do you mean the moment when? This is a regular occurrence for me.
Yeah.
That I probably still do. I don't quite yet do subconsciously.
Yes.
So there are moments where I have to do it very, very consciously.
Yeah.
And it's the thing that's made it for me is I get a lot of joy about seeing what the possibilities are. Second of my values after family is achievement.
Yes.
And it's not about personal achievement. It's actually my definition of it is the joy of solving new challenges together. And I get real joy out of that. So that stepping back from and allowing others to come up with a way of doing things or an answer that going, wow, I would never have approached it that way, and look at what it does.
Yeah.
And there is pure joy in those moments. I mean, you get to read some of them when I send you weekly reflections and all that sort of stuff. But it actually brings me a lot of joy. And from that then watching how people, people develop.
So, from those 4 words, smart guy can't lead, I mean, what did it take for you to take that on and not go and crumble, right, and go, oh, my God, what am I going to do now, right? Because that takes a lot of humility to actually hear it.
Yeah, and look, to be fair, it wasn't just those 4 words. It was then I remember doing the sort of assessment with you and everything, and going, okay, these are the parts of who I am and how I act in the moment and everything. Oh, these are the parts that keep me going forward. Oh, wow, these are the parts that hold me back.
Yeah.
So and it was that notion. So outside my values, there's another thing that I've realised about myself, and that is that an underlying ethos of become your best.
Yes.
What's the best version of me that I can possibly become? And because of that, you come to something like that sort of feedback and go, am I happy to settle here? or do I want to sort of try and do something a bit more?
Yeah.
And so it took that on. It also took a lot of self-reflection. I think a number of tears along the way. And I think some of them you were witness to along the way as well about it is really hard because you're unpacking who you are and letting go of things that have served you really well up to a point, but stepping into I don't know what's next. I don't know whether this will work or not. And it's confronting. It's scary at times, but ultimately really rewarding.
So one of the great things, I know that your team are really appreciating how you lead. And I know that we had a number of conversations about the 3 most important words that we learn is I don't know.
Don't know.
I don't know.
So
how are you using that to lead? Like, how do you lead with that?
It's I bring myself back to, and I remember it was a coaching session with you, and we were exploring this notion about I don't know. And you, in your own inimitable way, sort of said, "Hey, Richard, here's all the stuff you don't know. Get used to it." It was that sort of stuff. But then realising that it's not only that I don't know, but probably more importantly, I don't have to know.
Nice.
If I can create the conditions for that understanding to come out, it doesn't matter whose mouth it comes out of, whose brain it comes out of.
That's just a little piece of gold that you've given our listeners, by the way. When you lead, it doesn't matter whose mouth spews the gold for us.
Yeah.
It's, have you created the environment for it to happen?
Yeah.
And that's leadership. Create the environment for gold to drip out of people's mouths.
Yeah.
Just lovely. Piece of gold there. Absolutely fabulous. Let's talk a little bit about, you've had a multifaceted career in different industries, from Shell to Boral to ITW and now to Interflow. So I'm interested in, you worked at Shell, then you go to Boral, and then you do a turnaround on a burning platform for ITW. Can you just talk about what are the lessons that you learnt in those places? And, you touched oil in consulting, in material, all kinds of things. Let our listeners know that leadership across all those platforms is the same. Can you share a little bit about that?
So a couple I look back on my career and go, wow, I can see something that every step has given me along the way, even though there were moments within it where it didn't feel that way. Yep. Certainly, Shell was a wonderful founding ground and spent a dozen years there, and really good. Really good. I came in as a graduate straight through uni. I did my MBA while I was there as well, and Shell supported that and encouraged that. So it was a really great place to learn sort of the art of leadership, and some of the things we were doing at Shell, and this is a long, long time ago, are now the sort of things that, so when I saw the Integrity and Values program, it was a sort of step beyond some of the things that I've been taught 10, 15 years earlier. So I could sort of see the value in that. So there was real gold in that. For me then, it was the step, and it was one of the realisations I had. I knew the part of Shell that I was working in, so effectively the downstream oil industry in sort of Australia, New Zealand, Pacific, and sort of into Southeast Asia. But that was all I knew. So I had to broaden my knowledge really quickly. That stepped me into consulting before Boral. Yeah. So went in. I was ancient when I went into consulting compared to all my peers.
You were ancient.
I was ancient. I was at least 10 years older than them and everything like that, and they were way smarter than I was and all that sort of stuff. But I'd sort of brought some worldly experience that they didn't have. So it was that sort of notion about that was probably the first time I realised that raw smarts were great, but they could only get you so far, because I was working alongside a number of people 10 years younger that were struggling with notions of leadership, not notions of intelligence or raw analytic capability or anything like that.
All about the smartest guy in the room isn't necessarily
but it was how do you connect to people? How do you lead people? All that sort of stuff. Yeah. Went from that to Boral. Again, going in there, that was a great breeding ground for general manager type roles. In terms of it taught you a whole lot of things. But the other thing it taught me in my time there, I was there with 4 CEOs over my time. And I think Boral changed its values 3 times while I was there.
Right.
redefined them, and they
hello.
became
Who are we?
and look, that was where they were then. So I think they've settled a bit more now in terms of what they actually stand for and everything like that. But it was interesting. And then coming to ITW, American company, the beauty of running part of a business. With independence, it was a turnaround. That was hard, but also then realised the thing for me that I realised with ITW that didn't quite gel for me. The underlying purpose of ITW became make money for our shareholders.
I can remember you and I having an argument about that doesn't work for you.
Yeah, and it doesn't. And I'm never going to say it's the right or wrong thing for an organisation, but it's around that might explain why some of this isn't working for me, because that's not what I'm about. And and so I got for that notion about the leadership as being aligned, very much aligned with values, but also with purpose. It's got to mean something for me. That's why I'll bring what I'm bringing, not because there are extrinsic rewards attached to it, but because I get some intrinsic joy out of what I'm doing.
Yeah. So maybe we can talk a little bit to our listeners about what happens when you lead a business by quarterly returns or monthly or daily. What happens to the essence of the values that they espouse? And, what have you seen in your career over the years? What does that do to you? What does it do to the people?
So fundamentally, it does something that's quite harmful, I think, is it occasionally puts an unwritten value ahead of all the stated values.
Okay.
And as soon as you get that, you're inauthentic. One of the things I loved at ITW, they had some really strong values, and
fabulous.
I can, 5 of them, and I could probably list 4 of them without thinking too hard at the moment. And they were really strong, but there was an underlying value of keep hitting the returns. And you'd hear stories about what people were doing to enable that, and going, oh, hang on, that clashes with the value of this. And so it started to bring into question, how serious are we about that? They did a lot of good things and they made a lot of decisions in accordance with their values. But if it was all about returns for shareholders, why not have that as one of your values and just state it and be upfront about it?
I think one of the things that I learned from you, and maybe for our listeners, if they ever go public or something like that, is to know that when shareholder returns is the only thing that you make your decisions on, what does it do to the power in the business? It's huge. And whether it's them or anyone else, I've seen it it's why we at Integrity and Values don't work for large corporates, because I actually can't handle the value structure.
It may not be the only thing they make it, but when it becomes the dominating thing. Yeah. The other thing I found was what you're trying to do when you're doing a turnaround.
Yes.
It can be years to get this right, because it's learning a new way of doing things, setting everything up, getting it going.
Yes.
And you realise the fallacy of things like 100-day plans or something like that. And you can do that brutally if you're in some industries or in some areas. But the reality is, if you want to get hearts and minds on board, you're talking about human behaviour, and that can take a while to change.
Yeah. I've heard it takes 2 to 7 years. Well, actually, I know that because of my work, that it takes 2 to 7 years to get appreciable change. At the 2-year mark, you have a conscious competence around who you want to be as a business. And at the 7-year mark, it becomes who you are. And that's for individuals and for the business. Yeah. And it's a tough process. Yeah.
And so if you're operating in an environment of quarterly returns, you sometimes don't get the space or the freedom to make the changes that you need to make that will set you up for the long term. So you end up prioritising short-term actions and decisions over long-term sustainable ones, or you have to go a bit covert in terms of how you achieve the
become covert operator.
And that doesn't gel with a value of honesty, for instance, or something like that. So certainly coming to Interflow, which is where I am now.
Yeah.
It's a company that's founded in 1936, so we turn 90 next year.
Oh, wow.
3 of the 4 values were written on a piece of paper by the founder, who is the great-grandfather of the current managing director, and we hold to those values today. And we've added one other value since then. In the 90s, we added the value of respect, because we could do honesty, we could do reliability, we could do competence, and we could be quite disrespectful if we weren't careful. So holding that true and holding the decisions true to that. And then the other thing that Interflow does, and it's a privately owned company, so it doesn't have necessarily the pressures of stock market expectations or anything, but it's a very, very long-term view. So we talk about 4 generations to come. We're 4th generation at the moment. We're talking about what will this do to the 4 generations in the future, 8 generations in the future.
Yeah.
And so that long-term view means you can actually take the time to align people, individual values to what we hold dear as corporate values, but you can also make sure that everything aligns so that the decisions we make along the way, and sometimes you can take the moment to take the time to make the change properly, and that's really powerful.
So let's talk about your love of the game. I know you love AFL, right? And if you look at AFL today, realigning and not, like looking at a game like AFL and then the game of business, growing people, how do they align? How do you use this inside?
There's a couple of things. Look, I'm really fortunate. I'm a fan of Hawthorn, and we've had a really successful run over the last few years. And then my wife is a fan of Richmond. So then when Hawthorn weren't succeeding, I could go and by proxy support Richmond and watch all that. But what I've sort of seen with some of these, and the way that coaching happens, for instance, in the AFL now, they're all about trying to create a group of people to be the best they can be. And hey, along the way, when we do that, we know we will win games. So it's interesting. It's the winning becomes an outcome of being the best you can be.
Yep.
Yeah. Yes, it's one of the reasons why you do it, but it's actually a bit of an outcome. And then there are other great leadership lessons as well. I mean, the thing I love about AFL, you celebrate after every goal.
Yes.
How often do we if we hit a great milestone and that's great, now on to the next one, without taking those moments to celebrate? How often do we AFL is around that notion of sometimes you've got to rebuild a team, and that will take a few seasons to do. And you can sort of see it play out. There's often only a certain appetite for that sort of stuff, but you can see when people are doing that. So, and then there's a passion for it as well.
Yeah.
You don't get that in too many spots.
You can yell and scream.
You can yell and scream. You can't quite do that at work, but but you can display your passion some other way.
So, one of the things that I know that for you is really important is lasting growth and strategic thinking. So, and then the pragmatism that comes with all of that, right? So talk to us about, how do you grow people, grow a business, redesign processes, and keep growth and sustainability truly in the forefront? Like we're growing, we're going places, and it's messy along the way.
It is. It's always messy. And it's really interesting because it's what we're discussing about internally at Interflow at the moment. So the first thing to recognise is you almost you have to keep growing for 2 reasons. The second reason, I'll say it first, but the second reason is actually about the financial sustainability of a company. You cannot shrink your way to greatness. You cannot cut all that sort of stuff.
I remember that was one of the lines that you gave me once in a session. I don't know where we talked, but you actually said to me, you cannot cut your way to success and profitability. You can only cut so much. And then I remember you saying to me, I've got managers that are wearing 5 hats. They're exhausted.
Yeah.
It's not talk about that. What's happening in the world of leaders right now where most of them are exhausted because we're not supporting, you go, you cut 5 heads. Oh, okay, who's going to do that job now?
And really what you're trying to do when you cut is actually reposition yourself somehow.
Yes.
Yeah, so which means
talk about that.
We're in a particular market. We've had this, again, I'll use an Interflow example. We've had a geographic market where we'd gone into and realised the business wasn't yet as sustainable. The market wasn't as sustainable for us as we would like. So, of course, you're having years where it's great and years when it's not and years when it's great. So you've got a couple of choices that you either ride out that that variability over time, or you sit there and say, we're going to do something about it. How do we create our own fate here rather than feel like we're at the mercy of a market? And so when you're cutting, it will look like cutting, but what you're really trying to do is say we're going to reposition ourselves in that market, either pull back for a little bit or do it very differently. And that's what you've actually got to do, is around we're doing this for the long term. We're not doing it to hit a quarterly result or an annual result or something like that. We're doing it for the long-term sustainability. And I think that's where I've certainly made mistakes before around I've done it to hit a number. Yeah, and then you realise, oh, hang on, that was a bit stupid because all I've done is just kick the problem down the road and it's going to pop up twice as hard at me.
It's that whole thing about making the hard calls in business and not kick your problem down the road. You're just kicking the ball down the road. You are going to have to pick it up.
Someone will pay. You'll pay sooner or later. Yeah. And so that's why you need that sort of strategic view about is this something that we can turn around? Is it just a minor blip and we'll be okay, or is it a long-term thing, and make your calls accordingly?
Okay.
So the second part of your question about what does that do to people, and I've seen it I've felt it myself, I've lived it myself. Part of the reason I struggled at times when I was at ITW was as I was replacing people within my leadership team, and it was around sort of stepping up capability. I took on too many roles at once. And that
drowned.
thing, and look, I'm male. I can't multitask. I can just do a number of things crap at the same time.
So what do you want to say that again to tell leaders? Don't think you. What was the thing that you just said? I think it's great.
I'm male. I can't multitask. All I can do is a number of things crap at the same time. But what that has taught me is where there. I've had the same thing at Interflow where a change in leadership as part of my team, and there was a period I knew we were going to be without a leader in that role. Okay, I've got some other direct reports coming into me, but simplified it right down and was very honest and open with them about that. I will not be able to provide you for the next 3 to 6 months until we've filled this role. I can't give you everything you need. So we're going to really simplify it down to focus on, and I think we picked, I can't remember, I think it was 4 or 5 areas. And that's all we're going to focus on. Here's what I need from you to step up, and here's the bit that I can help you with along the way. And that made all the difference in the world.
Bit of wisdom.
Yeah. Wisdom born of experience, born of bitter experience. Yeah. Which I hadn't done previously. And all of a sudden, the impact was twofold. One is I wasn't trying to juggle 2 jobs or work more hours or, unsurprisingly, I'm no good when I work more hours. I just get tired and grumpy.
You're tired and grumpy.
Yeah.
But at least you acknowledge that.
Oh, it's part of it around what does it take for me to be at my best? Yeah. But the really exciting thing was watching this group of people who were suddenly going, oh, okay, I get the opportunity to step up, and they did. And they each took on, I think there were 4 of them when we had 4 areas. And they each actually said, I'll take on leadership of this area on behalf of all of us. And just watching how they actually lifted in that period where they had no direct leader. Yeah. They had a sort of proxy. But watching how they lifted and what that's led to in their own growth and how they think about it. So, and you can do this as when you're running a business as well, as you can starve people of what they actually need as resources. Yeah. So it's always about finding the balance about what are you trying to achieve, what resources do you need, and what actually makes sense.
So talk to me a bit more about that capacity to think strategically is often a missing when people are gung-ho. So what's your advice to leaders who are looking at their business and going, we want to grow here? How do they think about it strategically? Because that's called strategic thinking, and I don't think people actually get that.
There are a couple of things that I think about. Personally, what does it mean? Just breathe. Take a breath before you dive into the next thing. It's so easy to just be going, hey, I've got to make really fast decisions all the time. And it's one of the things I've actually coached one of the people in my team on who stepped up into a broader leadership role, around the, hey, you've got to where you are because your ability to make fast decisions, rapid decisions. Now you're entering a world where you're going to have to make a mix of fast decisions. You're going to have to make some slow decisions, which means they just need contemplation. And you're going to have to make some decisions where you're going to need to get a lot of perspective before you make the call. And so your trick now is to recognise which one of those you're doing. But if you fall into the default of every decision as a fast decision, that's what got you here, but it won't advance you. So that's one part about it. The second part is have a really good team around you. The thing about thinking strategically is you're trying to predict the future with insights on what is it that we've got that's special that we can leverage in the future to help us grow. You can't do that on your own because, hey, as smart as I might be, I come with limited perspective. I come with my own perspective. I gather 3 or 4 people around me who bring different perspectives or different ways of thinking. We will come up with a much better solution. And
So talk more about team then. Like, I'm a great believer in team. Teams can make the world move.
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah.
An individual.
They're joyful to be a part of as well.
Yeah.
One of the things I've realised through this is leadership is actually a team game.
Yeah.
It's portrayed in the media and everything like that as, the myth of the sole heroic CEO or anything like that. No, it's actually about the people you gather around you. You're accountable for the decisions you make and you have to make the calls. You can't delegate your decision-making responsibility. Yeah. But there's no rules or limits on what advice you can take along the way, what perspective you can take. And that's where it's good. And you need, one of the things I'm blessed with at the moment is I've got a team that call me out
that's
on stuff that will challenge my thinking, challenge each other's thinking and stuff like that. And then a team that goes, when we're committed, we are committed to this. So and it's a lovely position to be in, and that's partly around the capabilities of the people that I've got in that team, but also then what we've created together to make it safe to go. It's okay to go, hey, you know what? I disagree with where we're going on this. Okay, let's explore that for a bit. Let's what does it mean?
I mean, that's power of team.
Yeah.
Hey, what are you talking about? That sounds like nonsense to me.
And it's really good, and it takes courage to do that, and it particularly takes courage, when you're trying to do it with someone that you report to or something. Yes. But that's, I guess then the other thing is that notion about I don't think of myself at the top of the pyramid anymore. It's actually an inverted pyramid, if you like, because your role as leader is supporting the ones above you who support the ones above them. Because where I am, I actually don't generate income. For the organisation. It's our people out in the field that generate income. So my job is to support them and enable them through the people that work directly for me.
So, when you look at what you've, the many iterations of your career and, what it takes to build a team that will challenge you as the leader, tell me some of the power that happens because of that. What are some of the roads that you didn't go down because someone had the courage to say something?
It happens all the time. So probably the best example I can give at the moment, we've got a very, very clear strategy about where we pursue our revenue from, our sort of growth. We can be dogmatic about it, and I know myself, if I was left to it, I'd probably be too cut and dry, too black and white about it. Yeah, I've got a couple of people in my team that will bring stuff to go, hey, here's a really good idea. It's a bit left of centre, but and being able to link it to where we're trying to ultimately get to. Okay, so, let's run this as an experiment, or let's do something differently. That's what pops out. It also pops out in decisions about people. Who do you promote, or, in those horrible moments where you've got to take disciplinary action or something, how do you do it in a way that does that? So that's... The joy that I get is you get an outcome that you're going, wow, look at what we've just done together. Look at what we've achieved together.
What's some of the hardest decisions that you've made in your career, and what have you used to guide you in your decision making, especially around people?
The hardest thing I've had to learn is when is it time to say farewell to someone. This isn't about sacking someone for a disciplinary matter is actually not that hard because that's actually easy. It's the one that says, hey, our trajectory is going like this and we've got someone that's not quite keeping up, and do I make a call now? Do I try and build them to where they can get to? Or what else? And look, I don't love conflict, so I will always try and find a way that says no, we can build this person, we're okay. But sometimes you've just got to recognise is there an innate thing that will say, even if we do this, all I'm doing is holding off the inevitable. And so, it becomes
What's the thing you say to yourself when you are noticing that you're about to hold off the inevitable?
Yeah, it's really one of my peers has a lovely way of referring to it. And if I refer to it about myself, what would future Richard say to you now in 2 years' time?
Yeah.
Why didn't you make the call? And it's always going to be around that. Why didn't you make the call then? It's what's that thing about what's the right time to start saving? Well, 20 years ago, and if not right now, it's that sort of
So when's the right time?
When's the right time?
Because, I'm sure that you would have seen this, and I've certainly seen it in my career, is that when we don't make those calls, everybody is suffering.
Yeah.
Everybody is suffering.
Yeah.
And, some people suffer in silence. Other people are very verbal about, like, what the heck? How come I'm carrying this load?
Yeah. And part of that is, you've got to understand that the perspective I may be seeing on someone may or may not be what everyone else sees. And certainly as you enter different levels of leadership, sometimes you've got to appreciate that what you're seeing it'll be a version of a truth or something like that.
Yeah.
There's always something that might be left in or left out, just because of, hey, I'm reporting through hierarchy.
And, it's like, I know that your values really drive a lot of your decision making. And if you look at that, like, what is it that causes you to actually step back and go, I don't know about that.
So I trained as an engineer, which means I'm so comfortable with figures and facts and everything like that. One thing they don't teach you at engineering is feelings.
Feelings.
Yeah.
Oh, you had a feeling. You had one of those.
Exactly. And this is something that I'm learning as well, is that notion about, quite often it'll be something. You can't put your finger on it. And, we talk about it as a gut feeling or something like that. There'll be something. For many years, I tried to avoid that, by rushing to the next decision or taking action or keeping myself busy or something like that. I am learning to go, oh, that's interesting. Let's notice that feeling. What's it trying to tell me? What might I need to do about it? How might I explore it? Oh, and it's with the discomfort of it.
Exploration is, what evidence do I have?
Yeah, what am I missing here?
is-
Something doesn't feel right, and quite often it's that. Sometimes it can be as simple as just going. At Interflow, we often go back to our, the way we've got a thing called our Interflow, which sort of expresses our values and behaviours and vision and purpose and everything like that. But just explicitly going back to that to go, if I was to make this call, how would it line up here? How would it line up here? How would it line up here? And just it becomes a nice check against, when you've got those hard decisions to make, making them based on values, it actually becomes a really neat way of going, right, that's the best decision I think I can make in this moment. Even if I don't have all the information.
Yeah, and we can only make calls with the information we currently have. Right?
We'll never have enough, no. And it's one of those wonderful things about being a parent as well.
Yeah.
You realise all the stuff you did later on, and my kids are very, very good at bringing up all the stuff that has going to cause.
Remember when you did this, Dad?
or when you didn't do this or something. Yes, I do. Yeah, but and part of that is then just accepting that you're making the best decision you can with the information you have at the time, and all you've got is sort of two options. One is go seek more information, but sometimes that can be a delaying tactic, or just make the call and be comfortable that you may have to clean something up later on if there's something that comes to light that you've missed.
You just raised something that I think all leaders need to get a handle on. Yes, you can get X amount of information, and you said something there that's actually a piece of gold for leaders. It's like, is your constantly gathering information a simple delaying tactic, right? So that you don't have to put your name to this call.
So one of the hardest things I've learnt to take on in this is I've got to come in and do these type of roles knowing that at any point I could be held accountable for something that may or may not have been my doing.
Yes.
But I'm still accountable for it. And it's a weird way of sort of thinking about your, rather than as much as you naturally might want to fight for your position or whatever it is, you've got to go, no, that's what taking on this role actually means. And that's a decision that you don't make when you're in the role. It's a decision you make before you sign on the dotted line.
Yeah, well, most people don't actually think about it. Talk to me a little bit about some of the stuff that you've seen about people who want the title, right, and they don't get what comes with the title.
I've seen that, and it's really interesting. Probably the way in which I see it now is some of our younger team members coming through, because what they want is the rewards of the title without understanding either here's the responsibility you're taking on, here's the accountability,
Say more about that.
Well, yeah.
Because there's young aspiring people who are going to listen to this.
Hey, look, and I was that. I was there as well. Where actually, I could really do with the rewards now because
in fact, I could do better than you.
Yeah, and some parts of it, absolutely, they can. But it's then that notion about there's a great notion I picked up at ITW was this notion of ready enough for individuals when you step them into a new role. It doesn't mean that they can do the role without support.
Yes.
But it does mean that they will get there, and why would you compare a 5-year leader with someone who's brand new? Of course, the person who's brand new has got some stuff to learn, but they're ready enough because they're prepared to take on, and that's the call you're making when you promote someone.
You just gave me a little piece of gold there, like ready enough.
Yeah.
I'm supporting a client at the moment, and they need someone who's ready enough.
And the discussion actually becomes, what do you put around this person to get them to fully functioning on their own? You don't. You never put someone in a job and say, there you go, Jennifer, it's yours, off you go. Come back in a year with your results, thanks. Doesn't quite work that way, and it's a recipe for success.
Yeah.
And some of the poorer decisions I've made around people have been not taking into account what do they actually need to be successful in that role.
Is anyone listening to this, I really want them to pick up on that one. Is this person ready enough? And do you have the infrastructure and support structure that will allow them to be successful?
Yeah.
If not, don't do it.
Yeah, don't do it. And if you do, fantastic, commit to doing it as well. Don't give it lip service. Yeah.
Give them the support that they need.
So that, back to your original question about what does it mean with the sort of chasing the title and everything like that, sometimes it's just a conversation around what does it actually mean. And, I'm blessed at Interflow. We've got such a wonderful team. I would say 99% of the people go straight away, I get it. Okay, now what do I need to do to build towards that? So the next time this opportunity comes up, I am ready enough. And they're very different conversations you're suddenly having.
Well, now they've got a pathway.
Yeah.
So in leading, talk about the pathways that you've created for people to grow, and then later you go, hey, you're ready.
So probably because of my own experience and stuff like that, and then what I've subsequently learned along the way, when you're in leadership, you're actually looking for a mix of depth, as in ability to the art of leadership, if you like, but you're also looking for breadth of experience.
Yes.
Early in my career, I went probably a little too far, a little too fast, and I didn't have the breadth of experience, and that's what tripped me up on occasion. A bit later on. So my thing is around how do we create experiences for you so that when something happens to you when you're in a leadership role, you don't go to water. You're sort of going, okay, I've built some resilience. I've built some experience that makes me go, okay, I might not know exactly what to do, but I know we'll get through this along the way. And that becomes really, and that also opens up development pathways. So you don't think about your progression in terms of promotion. You think about your progression in terms of what experiences do I need to collect along the way, or what experiences do I need to give someone. One of the greatest moves I saw when I was at Boral, and it was a management team that I was a peer group on, and we had two of my peers there who'd both run their respective parts of the business for over 5 years each. And my manager at the time actually just swapped them into each other's role.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So you're still on the leadership team. You're going to run each other's business and everything like that. It broadened their perspective within about 3 months. They actually functioned a lot better together. It gave them something new, a new challenge. They were really comfortable in what they were doing.
Wouldn't that be cool if we did that for sales and marketing? They're always at each other's throats.
Well, but it's that notion about how do you think, and that's actually a development pathway.
Yeah.
And what it does is it gives you the breadth to say, hey, and when you want to take on, at the time it was the regional leadership role, you've got that understanding about not just your part in it, but a much broader part. So
that's a brilliant little piece there.
It was great to be witness to, because it's helped me sort of think about what are development opportunities. And the other thing that because we work so closely with some of our customers as well, it's how might we think about moving people into and out of. Just seconding people into and out of, because you come back with different experiences, different understanding, and that's really important.
Well, an appreciation of people's capabilities. I know whenever I sit with anybody, I hear things and I go, oh, wow, I never saw it from that point of view. And, that's the power of a team. is the perspectives.
Yeah.
And they have a whole different view on how the world turns. So I know that you've been involved in M&As and growths and, acquisitions. How have you handled deals across the various sectors that you've worked in and industries? And what are the cultural signals for you that they'll fit or they won't fit?
So I've had the good fortune to be able to do that, and did a number of these sort of things when I was at Boral and everything like that. I think the first thing was being really clear about why. So our initial framework for an M&A, the financials come way down the stream. What is our strategic rationale for why we're doing this? And can I get it onto one page? And the reason about getting it onto one page is it's always about, can I be so crisp and clear about why we're doing this that anyone could understand it?
Right.
Anyone who's either part of doing the acquiring or being acquired or whatever could understand it. And that means being honest with yourself as well. We are doing this to grow our revenue. Okay, that's fine. That is a strategic rationale. Be honest about it.
Yeah.
We are doing this because we're bringing on a set of skills and capabilities we don't have. We are doing this because we're entering a market that we're trying to dip our toe into the water. Get the strategic rationale right first, then worry about what the financial metrics do. And either one of them, if you can't get either one of them, you might get the strategic rationale right and the financials don't work, don't do it.
Yeah.
But if you can't get the strategic rationale, don't even bother with the financials. And I learnt that because...
That's a piece of gold for people who are wanting to grow through acquisition because that's strategic thing. Like, hello, what are we doing?
And then recognise, like any industry, there are a number of people that are peddling the financials because they get a cut of the financials.
Yes.
Yeah, so understand where the vested interest is, and But be really clear on your strategic rationale. And then the cultural piece, the best organisations they'll do the cultural audit beforehand, and it just means it's a simple understanding of where are the issues where this is going to mesh really well, where are the issues where we might have to put in a bit more work or it might take a bit longer. And very occasionally it might mean, hey, this is just the wrong thing. It might mean, the way we're going to, the culture is so radically different. You know what? Just hold it as a separate entity and leave it alone for a bit because, trying to force fit to cultures that don't mesh is a recipe for disaster. So it's just be aware of what you're entering into. Is how I
working across so many organisations, I've seen cultural mismatches, and oh my goodness, it is so frigging painful, and people are in so much agony, literally. Because they can't get with this program or get with how we do things around here. And
then you've got that choice, haven't you, around that, well, are you assimilating an acquisition or are you going to hold it off to the side?
Are we the Borg?
Yeah. And that's exactly
assimilate.
But that's how you've got to look at it. And, and in some organisations it will make sense to do that for a couple of years, but in some you're going, no, we actually need you to be part of our organisation, right? Is the time frame to do that acceptable? Yes or no? Yeah, that's the
So it's all about the questions that you ask yourself before you green light.
I had one of the things that Interflow is a wonderful place in terms of future development. I actually went and did the AICD Company Directors course, and that notion about the most powerful tool in your arsenal is the question. Yep. And it helps me think about leadership differently.
Yes.
It's not barking instructions or anything. What's the question I need to ask here that might unlock a different way of thinking or get to the nub of what we're trying to solve or something like that?
Or what's the question? Like, questions are everything, right? So it's the question that we didn't ask or the one that we thought about that we didn't say. And if we got the answer to that, would we have made a different decision?
And then the other thing I've learnt as well is, why wasn't I asking as many questions earlier in my career? Because I felt like I had to go at a certain pace. And questions slow things down.
Yes.
But they actually can make the journey smoother.
Yes.
And it's not actually speed you're after, it's the smoothness. That's the thing that makes it joyous and everything like that. You need ups and downs in what you're doing. But if you can keep things smoother, that stops. Certainly stops me, but it stops your team as well, lurching from one thing to the next or something like that. Yeah.
I think it's the questions you ask them and it's the questions you ask yourself.
Yes, yeah.
And when you're leading around people, there are questions that I've found if I ask myself these questions, it actually leads me to powerful decisions rather than me being upset about something that happened because I didn't ask the question. And there's 3 questions that I've learned recently, well, a while ago, but I use them. So, with people, are they willing? And, what's their learning agility? Because if you're bringing someone new into your business, are they agile enough? And then the last one is, will they do the work?
Yep.
Right? So, and if you can't answer those 3 questions, then you actually don't know what you're making a decision on. Like, hello, this person is unwilling.
Yeah.
And they're not agile enough, and, they don't want to do the work. They just want to do their thing. And
that then spawned the 4th question. What the hell am I thinking if I can't get the answer to those 3?
If I can't get the answer to those 3 questions, then let me rethink this. And, there's strategic questions around people. And so what are some of the most important things that you think of as you bring new people into your organisation?
One of the things we're doing, it was a switch we actually made in our business recently, and it was so we have a broad field staff. It's about 2/3 of our workforce, and about 1/3 is sort of office, project engineers, project managers, all that sort of stuff. We actually flipped about 24 months ago to ask first and foremost questions about what are these people's values and behaviours, and how well do we think they're going to align with Interflow's? And then asking questions about the types of work they've done, all that sort of stuff. And the reason we asked that was because we can teach you the skills.
Yeah.
I came into Interflow not knowing the water industry, and I remember at the time part of my interview process was that's okay. But that becomes one of the most important things you do in the first 6 to 12 months is go learn what you need to learn about the industry. Okay,
so you can ask the right questions.
And I've got a technical aptitude, so it's not going to be that hard it's not something that will be impossible for me to do. But the questions about values and behaviours, they are so much harder. It's so hard to teach someone a new set of values or have them, and it will sometimes come down to skill, but more often it comes down to will. I am this way because that is fundamentally what I believe, and therefore are we bringing you into the right environment? Yep.
I think that's one of the most painful things, because if you don't do the values assessment before you bring someone in, you really are in trouble, because
you can be.
You could get a values misalignment, and then you go, what the heck? What are we doing here? So let's just go for a leader who wants to turbocharge a stalled business unit. What's the first conversation you want to have with the team on day one?
I want to have many conversations.
Yeah.
I would generally start with the why are we here?
Yeah.
What is actually going on here? And that analysis type stuff. And and what I've learnt over the year, there'll be a technical analysis. What can I see through our P&L or our balance sheet or something like that? That'll give me one set of answers. And then the other part is the what's going on here. How are we leading as a team? How are we showing up as individuals? And I didn't get that second part until I started working with you. I really didn't. It was almost so far down the list for me and I didn't appreciate what it actually, the impact it could have. Because sometimes it's hey, you know what, we're just in the wrong market, or our business model is wrong. They're technical challenges. Yeah.
People challenges.
The people challenges and how we work together as a team or something like that, it requires a different set of solutions. And what's that adage about treating everything as though it's a nail, and therefore you just pull out a hammer every time, and that's not always the case.
I remember Jay saying that to me one time about one of our team members, and he said everything's a nail for her, so all she has is a hammer.
Right?
Yep. He said, let's give her some other tools.
Yeah, exactly,
right?
exactly.
So,
But I think they're the two. So it starts with analysis, which is actually about starting with understanding.
well, you do need the analysis. Like I'm, because I'm all about people, right, and team, and no, and I've had to learn what you know, like. Can I do a technical analysis of what's actually going on in this business? Because the numbers are important. And what I've learned is to have the numbers tell a story. So I look at numbers from the point of view of what conversations are not being had here. Why is that number like that? And why is this number like this? Who's not talking to who around here?
Yes.
And so that's taken time, for me to learn that. Like, okay, this number is really important. And how do I use that to drive the kind of difference that we want? So we came from two different ends of a spectrum and ended up in the same place.
In the same, and they're both as important as the other.
Yes.
And it's that you've got to have these, things.
And I'm really conscious, like
available.
I know we've had conversations and you've given me such fabulous insights into the numbers. And I go, I'll go away and have a look at that. Right? And it's an education. That's the joy, I think, of the work that I do, is I have guys like you who educate me. And go, Jennifer, have you thought about it? Oh, no, I should go and have a look at that. Right? So let's just finish up with, you're very vocal about family first. And how do you keep a scoreboard, balanced scoreboard between hitting EBITDA targets and being present at the dinner table?
Balanced scoreboard. I used not to.
Okay.
Yep.
What happened?
What happened? Two things happened. One is I got too tired and grumpy, and and at one point, and at one point, actually had my wife say to me, "I don't like who you're becoming." Ooh, okay, that's powerful feedback. Yeah, that's really The second thing is realising that it shouldn't actually be a competition.
Oh, beautiful. Say more about that.
Well, we talk about, for a while it's always been work-life balance.
Which is a nonsense.
Yeah, it's work-life integration. If I'm getting enough joy with what I'm doing at work, so it's never about sometimes it's about the time, but that thing when you're sitting there on a weekend, it's supposedly a weekend, but your mind's just trying to churn through a problem that's sitting there at work or something like that. And I've learned for those sort of things, well, if that's the case, just go and do the work and get out of it so that you can be present. And the impact of that is that I'm just not present and enjoying the moment. And I get so much joy from my family.
Yeah.
And I've also learnt that part of my role as a leader is there'll be moments, when I need to work hard and everything like that, but they should be moments. If it's happening all the time, there's something not quite right. And that might be, hey, we haven't set the business up to succeed. We're under-resourced. It might be a personal thing. You know what? I'm attaching too much of my self-worth to look how many hours I've achieved. And having worked in consulting and stuff like that, you suddenly realise, that might shape why I think or help shape why I do that. But it's this notion about work-life integration, which then comes back to having fun at work. And when you have enough fun at work, it's easy to say, I'm enjoying this. You know what? I'm getting home to have dinner with my family. I might choose to pull out my laptop later on and do some work, but that's my choice. And how do I create that? I was laughing with my my head of P&C, People and Capability, because she sent me something after hours about it was a LinkedIn post about the leaders who set the expectation that you don't have to be contactable after hours. And I went to reply, but I spoke to her the next morning going, did you see the irony about you sending that to me at 8 o'clock at night, rather than actually waiting till the next day? One of the things I am big on is that, hey, turn off the emails. We don't email over the weekend. We don't, do all that sort of stuff. If there's an emergency, it doesn't mean don't work.
Yes.
Yeah, but don't hit send. Save it up till Monday morning. Do you want everyone looking at it? If I feel like doing something on a Sunday afternoon because it gets it out of my head or helps me prep for my week, that's my choice. But don't impose that on my team. And I've worked in environments where it's been imposed on the team. down to the horror stories that you hear around here's the email at midnight, give me a response. Sorry, I'm
asleep.
So it's back to that whole thing about work-life integration, but enjoying then the
love
moments.
that word that you just used. It's not about work-life balance. It's about integrating your life. We are built to work.
There's a joy and there's a fulfillment and when I've found that now. When I've got something that I feel has purpose and meaning and it works for me, I get a lot of fulfillment with work. I don't see, I've been asked.
Well, you take that home. You're not the grumpy bum.
That I was, yeah. No, I'm never grumpy. No.
I mean, so, like for many of the leaders that I've had the privilege of working with, you've actually touched on something that I think is really important. Who you choose as your life partner makes or breaks you. And if you, I don't know if it breaks you, but it gives you more fulfillment. So I know that Nadia's added this enormous repertoire of who you are, and she has the courage to say, I don't like who you're becoming. I love her even more. I've never met Nadia.
But it is, and certainly for me, Nadia is my rock. Yeah?
Yes.
She, that notion about family, who I can be completely me, loved and valued for who I am, and she's the same with me, and that's really important. It's also really important to understand that my troubles are not necessarily hers. So just be careful about coming home and going, "Oh, good, you're here." Yeah, bang. Hey, what are some different ways I might be able to do that? But it's great grounding for me.
So one last question for you: when you look back 20 years from now, what impact will you be proudest of on infrastructure, on teams, and on your own family? What would you like people to say about what you accomplished?
So if I think about my family, I would like them to say they enjoyed my company, or my kids to say, hey, and I get the joy of being able to do stuff with my kids still, and they're in their early to mid 20s at the moment, and all that sort of stuff. So that we're still connected together, and we do that. If I think about for work, two things. I'd love to see Interflow doing stuff that people don't think possible with a private company in construction. And we do all our own work. We don't subcontract a lot of work, and that's a difference. And we make a difference to our customers. So I'm looking forward to what Interflow can do next. And then probably the thing that will resonate, just in terms of work life, the people that we're bringing on at the moment, seeing them in roles of leadership and leading and building their own, and bringing their own sort of ethos, joy, inspiration to the people that they're now leading. That's the bit I'm looking forward to seeing as well.
Well, Richard, thank you for being here. All my conversations in the many years we've known each other have always been full of love and joy, giving and receiving. And for those of you who are listening today, please hit that subscribe button, make comments below, tell Richard what you've learned from what he said, because he has a wealth of experience. Thank you for listening, and we look forward to seeing you in our next episode. Well, that wraps up today's episode. If you enjoyed our conversation and want to keep the momentum going, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss the latest insights and stories from extraordinary leaders. We appreciate you tuning in and can't wait to share more with you soon. Thanks for listening.